serve overseas in the Marine Corps just to come back home and watch politicians and career criminals attack our democracy. And I call on Mark Harris to tell us exactly what he knew and when he knew it.
That is Dan McCready, the Democratic candidate in the North Carolina race for House District 9. Now, he had conceded the race shortly after Election Day, but yesterday, in the face of mounting evidence of election fraud that may have helped his opponent, he took that concession back. Dan McCready joins me now. Thank you so much for being with us. Obviously, so much has happened in the weeks since your election. Based on your last statement there, are you suggesting that your opponent, Mark Harris, knew about this election fraud?
Well, it certainly looks that way. He hired a criminal who was under investigation for absentee ballot fraud to do his absentee ballot work. And apparently he got what he paid for. He liked his services so much that he actually recommended this criminal services to other politicians.
So my understanding, and not to get overly technical here, he hired one firm, Red Dome, which then subcontracted out McCrae Dowless, who is the one alleged to have been involved in this ballot harboring. So the campaign didn't hire this man directly, did they?
Well, the campaign hid his services through this subcontractor. But this evidence, this just unbelievable, shameful criminal activity and election fraud, the evidence has been rolling out not just day by day, but actually hour by hour.
Yep.
Just last night or this morning, the New York Times reported, and my opponent Mark Harris's FEC report, a $34,000 payment related to Bladen County absentee ballots.
Yes, and again, that went to the firm which then hired this man who was alleged to have committed the election fraud. And again, the evidence of election fraud is just crystal clear here. The question is, did Mark Harris and his campaign have direct knowledge of it? Let me just read you the statement. This is now a statement from a lawyer for Mark Harris. I want to emphasize again that the campaign was not aware of any illegal conduct in connection with the 9th District race. However, the campaign intends to cooperate with all the lawful investigations of the conduct of election, and like everyone else, is awaiting the outcome of the election. One aspect of this that I'm not sure people fully appreciate outside of North Carolina is one of the things alleged to have happened now is ballots may have been destroyed. Absentee ballots collected from particularly minority voters believed to likely vote Democratic may have been destroyed here. Do you have any direct evidence that happened?
Well, I'll leave that to the many agencies that are investigating my opponent Mark Harris and his campaign. But the affidavits do not paint a pretty picture. This is just incredible, shameful criminal activity. Folks showing up at people's doors, maybe throwing their ballots in the trash, helping them, altering their ballots. Altering their ballot choices, misleading them. It was reported in an affidavit that early voting information may have been leaked to people that weren't supposed to see it, which is strategic information used to conduct a campaign. This goes to the top of Mark Harris's campaign, and there's only one person that knows the extent of this criminal activity. That's Mark Harris, and it's absolutely unacceptable to the people in North Carolina who had their voices stolen from them. I mean, your vote is your voice. That's what I served overseas in the Marine Corps. I never expected to come back home and see our very right to vote, what our democracy is based on, under attack here at home. People deserve Mark Harris to tell us what he knew and when. He is the only person that knows the extent of this activity, and it's not acceptable for him just to remain silent and hide behind a lawyer.
Again, just to reiterate once again what his lawyer said is the campaign had no direct knowledge, but as you say, we would like to hear from Harris about that. We have invited him on the show, just to be clear about that. I want to play some sound from Dallas Woodhouse, who's the executive director of the Republican Party in North Carolina, who says under certain circumstances, he'd welcome a recount based on the evidence he's seen, some of our reporting about the election fraud that seems to have taken place. Listen.
I was watching it, and I immediately went in and threw up. I was very ill. I mean, this is shaking us to the core, and we are as horrified by it as anybody. Clearly, if what you reported is verified by the State Board of Elections, there has to be a new election.
That's the executive director of the Republican Party in the state saying there has to be a new election if this is verified by the state board. I guess my question to you is, based on what I'm hearing from you this morning, is you think that the Republican candidate, Mark Harris, is culpable here. If he's culpable, do you even think there should be a new election, or should you just be declared the winner?
Well, first of all, I think Mark Harris owes it to the American people of North Carolina to come clean and tell us what he knew and when he knew it. But I fully trust the State Board of Elections. I think we need to, it took a lot of courage for a bipartisan board with Republicans, Democrats, and an independent all to vote together 9-0 in an unprecedented decision to refuse to certify this election. That took a lot of courage to the Republicans on that board. I fully trust the process, and I fully believe that if this election is tainted, then the board will call a new election.
And you support the idea of a new election, yes?
If this election is tainted, there absolutely needs to be a new election, because there's people in North Carolina who've had their voices silenced and their very rights to vote taken from them.
Dan McCready, thank you for being with us. Look forward to speaking to you again in the future. This appears to be a story that will not go away. On the contrary, anytime soon.